Hello friends. About 70% of the friends who watch my videos are not subscribed, and I would be very happy if you did. Also, don't forget to press the like button and leave your comments. Your interaction makes the content reach everyone and contributes to the growth of the channel. Thank you all. From which country or city do you follow the channel? The Laughing Mile. Never open the door if someone knocks at 3 in the morning. I learned that the hard way, and it's a lesson I'd rather shove up fate's ass than relive. My name's Tim Kelly, 32, night guard at this shitty little strip mall off Highway 17. It's a gig for losers who don't mind stale coffee and flickering security feeds that look like ghost porn. Half the stores are boarded up, the pavement's cracked to hell, and the vape shop's neon sign buzzes like a dying bug. I took it 'cause it's cash, not 'cause I love staring at nothing all night. That night, it was 2:55. I was choking down a gas station sandwich, ham and cheese, soggy as a wet sock, when 3 sharp knocks hit the back exit by the loading dock. I froze, mayo dripping onto my pants like a damn accusation. Who the hell's out there? I muttered, wiping my hands on my sleeve. Probably some meth head looking for a corner to crash. Happens more than you'd think. I grabbed my flashlight, heavy enough to crack a skull, and trudged down the hall, boots echoing on chipped linoleum. The hallway was a tomb, dark, buzzing lights, walls peeling like bad skin. Knock, knock, knock. Louder now, rattling the metal door. My gut twisted. I'm not some jumpy rookie. I've chased off punks and wrestled a raccoon once, but this felt wrong, too damn deliberate. I pressed my ear to the door, steel cold as a corpse. Nothing, just wind, maybe. Hey, asshole, we're closed, I called, keeping it steady. No answer. I swung it open, beams slicing the fog outside, thick, slimy mist coiled around the dumpster. Empty lot. Just a busted cart tipped over like a drunk. Then I saw it. 50 feet out, barely a shape in the mist. Tall, lanky, arms dangling too low, like they forgot where to end. My light caught a floppy hat, sagging to one side, a clown hat. My throat turned to sandpaper. Clowns have been my nightmare since I was 8. Cousin dragged me to a circus, and one of those painted freaks grabbed me, grinning like a psycho. Now, my skin crawled like it was trying to run without me. I slammed the door, locked it tight, and backed off, heart pounding like a jackhammer. Screw this, I said, loud, filling the quiet. 2 steps toward the office, and it hit again. Knock, 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 slow, taunting like a kid playing a game. I spun, beam trembling, door still shut, but the sound was inside now, vibrating the frame. I bolted, past shuttered stores, breath hitching like a bad engine. The office was my bunker. I slammed the door, sank into the chair, and stared at the monitors. Static on every screen, gray fuzz swallowing the feeds. Then one cleared, the dock. That shadow stood there, under the floodlight, head tilted like it was eavesdropping. It waved slow, lazy, like we were buddies. I laughed, shaky and pissed. Yeah, hilarious, you prick. Hope you're having a blast. The screens flickered, all at once, and then I heard it. A chuckle low, wet, like someone gargling swamp water. It wasn't from the monitors, it was behind me, right in the damn room. I sat there, ass welded to the chair, that chuckle slithering around me like a snake with a cold. The office stank of burnt coffee and mildew, but now something sour crept in, sharp, biting, like old sweat. I snatched the radio off my belt, thumb jamming the button. Bass, you there? Got a fucking problem here, I barked. Static hissed back, mocking me. Come on, don't dick me around. I snapped louder. Nothing, just that faint buzz, like the thing was giggling under its breath. The monitor still showed that shadow, floppy hat swaying, waving like some demented kid. I leaned in, squinting at the blurry feed. Was it bigger now? Arms stretching longer? The screen blinked, and it vanished. Empty dock, just mist and that damn cart. Good fucking riddance, I growled, but my stomach wasn't buying it. I was done. Screw the shift. I'd tell the boss some punk tripped the alarm and I had to play hero. I grabbed my jacket, flashlight, and the crowbar I kept under the desk. Rusty, but it'd split ahead if needed. The hallway loomed, dark and buzzing, shadows twitching under the lights. I moved fast, boots thumping, aiming for the front doors. Fresh air? A smoke. Maybe a call to the cops if I didn't feel like a total pussy by then. The glass doors glowed through the mist. I shoved them open, spilling into the lot. Same tipped cart, same cracked asphalt. Wait, I'd gone out the front, not the dock. How the hell was this the same spot? My beam swept the haze, shaking in my grip. 50 feet off. There it was, shadow, hat, arms dangling like wet noodles. What the fuck? I breathed, stepping back. The doors were shut now, locked tight. I banged the crowbar, glass rattling. Open, you bastards. Nothing. I spun, and the shadow was closer, 30 feet, swaying like it owned the night. I ran. Yeah, I'm a chicken shit, sue me. Past the cart, past the vape sign, into the haze. Lungs burned, chest screaming, but I kept going, aiming for the highway. Mist thickened, muffling everything, but I spotted a mile marker, 13. Relief hit like a cheap beer. I slowed, panting, and checked behind, just haze. Stay gone, you creepy fuck, I snarled, wiping sweat off my brow. Then I saw it again. Mile marker 13. Same chipped paint, same rusted pole. I passed it coming in half a mile out. I turned, squinting. The mall faded back into view. Cart, sign, all of it. No way, I whispered, head spinning. The shadow was by the cart now, head cocked like I was the punchline. You think this is a game? I yelled, crowbar up. It didn't answer, just pointed, slow at the ground. I looked, footprints mine, looping back in a tight circle like I'd been chasing my own dumb ass. The haze pulsed, and that chuckle rolled out, low, wet, wrapping around me like a chokehold. It wasn't just behind me now, it was everywhere, sinking into my damn bones. I stood there, staring at my own footprints, breath fogging in the cold. That chuckle was alive, bouncing through the mist like a rabid dog. I swung the crowbar, wild, screaming, "Shut your damn mouth!" It stopped, sharp, like someone yanked the plug. Silence hit, thick and wrong, pressing on my chest. My radio crackled. I hadn't touched it. Still clipped to my belt, volume low. "Tim?" A voice scraped out, rough as sandpaper. I ripped it off, staring at the blinking red light. "Tim, why'd you leave her?" My gut sank like a stone. Her? Jenny, my ex? She tossed me out after I fucked up my last job. Called me a dead-end loser. But this wasn't about her. I jammed the button. "Who's this?" "Stop screwing with me, you prick." Static hissed. Then, "You didn't stop," she screamed. My hands shook. 5 years back. Rainy night, driving home, half dead from a shift. A girl on a bike, young, wobbling in the storm. I'd been zoned out, radio blaring. Clipped her. Barely, I told myself. Saw her spin into the ditch, heard a cry, or maybe I didn't. Kept driving, buried it under whiskey and lies. Bullshit? I snapped, hurling the radio into the mist. It thudded, but the voice kept going, echoing from nowhere. "You heard her, Tim." I clapped my hands over my ears, yelling, "I didn't hear Jack." The words ricocheted, mocking me. My beam caught the shadow, 20 feet off, arms wide like it wanted a damn hug. I bolted for the mall, crowbar swinging. The doors opened, figures, and I stumbled in, slamming them shut. The hallway stretched, peeling and buzzing. I ran for the office, legs screaming, and shoved the chair against the door. "Safe," I panted, collapsing. The radio crackled, on the desk now, not in the lot. "She's still waiting?" It whispered. I grabbed it, smashing it against the wall. Plastic splintered, but the voice laughed, sharp as broken glass. I spun, checking corners. Empty. Just me, the monitors, that mail-leaking sandwich. Then the whispers started. Not from the radio. From the vents, the walls, the damn floor. "Tim, Tim, Tim." Over and over, piling up like a fucked-up choir. I pressed against the door, crowbar up. "Stop it, you son of a bitch." The whispers paused, and the screens flickered. All 10 showing the dock. The shadow stood there, hat drooping, head tilted. It jerked forward, slow, like a puppet, toward the camera. The feed cut, and a stench hit, grease paint thick and oily like a clown's sweaty armpit. It was on me, in me, choking me. I gagged, clawing at my throat, but it stuck like glue. That grease paint stink wasn't just a whiff. It was a goddamn time machine, yanking me back to 8 years old circus tent, sticky seats, a clown with a smirk like a busted jack-o'-lantern grabbing my arm. Now it was here, drowning the office, turning my stomach into a knot. I stumbled to the window, cracking it open. Mist shoved it back, wet and heavy, like snorting paint fumes. "Where are you, you sick fuck?" I growled, sweeping the flashlight. Nothing. Just the desk, the busted radio monitors buzzing static. The smell thickened, coating my tongue, stinging my eyes. I grabbed a rag, some crusty towel, and mashed it to my face. Didn't do shit. It was in my clothes, my hair, my goddamn soul. I had to move. The office was a trap, walls squeezing in. I kicked the chair aside, crowbar gripped tight, and hit the hall running, lights flickered, shadows stretching wrong. Halfway to the dock, I stopped. He was there, end of the hall under a dying bulb. Red and yellow stripes sagged off him. Hat flopped low, shoes too big for anything human. No face, just a smudge, like someone smeared it with a greasy thumb. He didn't budge, just stood, head cocked, like he expected me to bow or some shit. My beam shook, light bouncing off his suit. "What do you want, asshole?" I croaked. He raised a hand, pointing. At the floor. I glanced down, nothing, just scuffed tiles. Looked up. He was 10 feet closer, arms swaying like rubber. I swung the crowbar, hard, hit air. He melted into the dark. But the smell stayed, and a shuffle started, soft, uneven, those oversized shoes dragging. I backed up, heart slamming, and bolted for the dock door. It flew open, mist spilling in, and I stumbled out. He was by the dumpster, leaning like a bum. That smudge turned, and I swear it smirked. Wet, wide, splitting the blur. I froze, crowbar slipping in my sweaty hands. He glided forward, slow, like he owned me. I ran, haze swallowing me, the shuffle chasing close. I ran blind, mist choking the lot, boots skidding on wet asphalt. The shuffle faded, but that grease paint stink stuck like a leech. I stopped by the vape shop sign, chest heaving, scanning the haze. Nothing, just the cart, the dumpster, the mall lurking. "You're gone, you bastard." I panted, half convinced. Then I caught my reflection in the shop's busted window, me, sweaty, wild-eyed, crowbar dangling, and him. Right behind, hat bobbing, arms loose. I spun, swinging air again, back to the glass. He was still there, closer, leaning over my shoulder like a creepy uncle. That smudge pulsed, smirk flickering, wet and wrong. Jesus fucking Christ. I stumbled back, tripping over the curb the reflection held. He filled it now, not me. I scrambled up, bolting for the mall doors. They opened, thank God, and I dove in, slamming them shut. The hall stretched, dark and buzzing. I'd lost him out there, hadn't I? I ran for the office, barricading the door with the chair. I sank down, hands shaking, and checked the monitors. Static, then one cleared. The hall I just left. He stood there, dead center, head tilted. My flashlight hit the desk mirror. Some cheap crap from the last guard. He was in it, sitting where I was, hat brushing the ceiling. I twisted, empty chair. Back to the mirror, he smirked, tapping the glass from inside. "You're not real," I whispered, voice cracking. That night came back. Rain, the girl, the bike. I'd clipped her, seen her fall, heard the scream, or thought I did. Kept driving, radio loud, burying it. "You didn't stop." The busted radio hissed, wires dangling like guts. "She screamed your name." "She didn't know my damn name," I yelled, smashing the mirror. Glass shattered, but the voice cackled, wet and gurgling, filling the room. The screens flickered, all showing him now in every hall, every corner, waving like a smug prick. I stared at the broken glass, shards crunching under my boots like brittle bones. That cackle rolled in, soft at first, then loud, slamming against the walls like a pack of drunk hyenas. It wasn't human. Too deep, too warped, like a chorus of throats drowning in their own glee. I swung the crowbar, wild as hell, screaming, "Come on, you twisted fucker!" It cut off, mid-breath, leaving a silence so thick it pressed on my ribs like a vice. Then the mist crept in, not from outside, but right here, inside the damn office. Gray tendrils seeped from the vents, curling over the desk, swallowing the monitors, wrapping my soggy sandwich in a shroud. I coughed, swatting at it. Useless. It was wet, cold, clinging like a damp rag over my mouth. The lights dimmed, buzzing like a swarm of pissed-off bees, casting jagged shadows across the walls. The cackle hit again, behind me, ahead, above, everywhere, drilling into my skull. I stumbled into the hall, flashlights slicing through the haze. The shuffle started. Those oversized shoes dragging slow, scraping like nails on concrete. I spun, beam trembling. He stepped out, 10 feet off, stripes sagging off his frame, hat drooping low, arms swinging like loose cables. No face, just that smudge, staring right through me. "What do you want, you sick bastard?" I shouted, voice bouncing off the walls, swallowed by the mist. He tilted his head, slow, deliberate, and the haze pulsed, tightening around me like a noose. The cackle slammed into my ear, sharp, close. I whipped around, nothing but gray, back to him. He was 5 feet away now, arms stretching out, fingers brushing the air. I ran, mist blinding me, walls blurring into smears. My boots echoed, heart pounding like it wanted out. The dock door loomed up. I crashed through it, tumbling onto the lot's wet asphalt. The haze followed, thicker, heavier, and the cackle swelled, rattling my teeth, shaking the ground under me. I swung the crowbar, hitting nothing but air, and kept running. Past the cart, past the vape sign, into the gray void. My lungs screamed, legs burning, but I pushed on, praying for escape. Mile marker 13 flashed by. I stopped, gasping, mist swirling like a living thing. The mall loomed back into view. Same damn cart, same locked doors, no goddamn way. I whispered, spinning around 13 again, mocking me with its chipped paint. The cackle erupted, loud enough to crack the sky, and he was there, by the sign, head cocked, smirking through that smudge. I gripped the crowbar, chest heaving, and glared into the haze. "You think you've got me, huh?" I muttered, spitting into the mist. The sound bounced back, twisted, like he was throwing it in my face. I gripped the crowbar, mist pressing in tight, that cackle drilling into my brain like a rusty screw. Then it stopped, sharp, like someone snapped its neck. I exhaled, shaky, scanning the lot. Empty, just the vape sign flickering. The cart tipped over, the mall's dark bulk lurking like a predator. "Stay gone, you piece of shit," I muttered, turning back to the doors, my boots squelching on wet pavement. Locked. I slammed the crowbar against the glass. Shuddered, didn't break. "Open, you bastards!" I yelled, voice raw. A creak sounded behind me. Slow, deliberate. I spun, flashlight up. He was there, perched on the cart like it was his goddamn throne, hat brushing the handle, stripes crinkling in the damp air. The grease paint stench rolled off him, thick and sour, hitting me like a punch to the gut. That smudge stared, unblinking, boring into me. "Get the hell away, you freak!" I swung, whiffed air. He flickered. Gone for a heartbeat. Then back, closer, arms draped over the cart like a lazy drunk. The cackle gurgled, wet and low, vibrating through the haze. He leaned forward, like he wanted to share a dirty joke. My stomach churned, boots slipping as I backed up. I bolted for the side entrance. Please, God, let it open. It did, and I stumbled into a narrow service hall, walls tight and dark, pipes groaning overhead. I ran past rusted lockers, breath ragged. He was there. End of the hall, slumped against the wall, hat tilted like he'd been waiting all night. I froze, chest heaving, breath fogging in the cold. "You're not real, asshole," I said, loud, trying to make it stick. He glided forward, slow, shoes scraping. I bolted past, shoving by, aiming for the atrium. The cackle chased me, bouncing off the pipes, sharp and jagged, slicing through the air. I hit the main floor. Empty stores, pillars swallowed in mist. He was center stage, arms hanging loose, smirking through that smudge. I stopped, crowbar raised, sweat stinging my eyes. "What are you, huh? Some ghost? Some fucked up dream?" I whispered, voice cracking. He tilted his head, slow, and I felt it. Cold breath on my neck, sour as piss, raising every hair on my body. I swung, hit nothing. He vanished, but the cackle stayed, soft now, right beside me, like a buddy whispering in my ear. The atrium was a graveyard. Shuttered stores gaped like open mouths, mist curling around pillars like smoke from a dying fire. That cackle hung close, soft and sly, brushing my ear like a lover's whisper gone wrong. I ran, legs screaming, crowbar banging my thigh. boots slipping on the slick floor. The main doors loomed ahead. I hit them hard, shoulder first, spilling into the lot. Haze swallowed me whole. I kept going, aiming for the road, praying the mist was just screwing with my head. Not my damn life. Silence fell. No cackle, no shuffle. Just my ragged breathing and the thud of my boots on asphalt. The haze thinned, and I saw it. Mile marker 13, glowing faintly in the gloom. I laughed, wild and shaky. Finally, you bastard, I'm out. But the mall faded back into view. Same tipped cart, same flickering sign, same damn doors mocking me. My gut sank like a stone. I turned, running harder, mist clawing at my legs, cold and wet. 13 flashed by again, chipped paint grinning in my face. I stopped, hands on knees, gasping like a fish on a dock. What the hell is this? I muttered, voice hoarse. The cackle rolled out. Faint but sharp, cutting through the gray like a blade. He was there, by the dumpster, leaning casual as you please, hat drooping, arms swaying. I gripped the crowbar. I'm done running, you sick fuck. And charged, swinging hard. He smirked, wet and wide, teeth glinting in that smudge. Then vanished as I hit air. The cackle faded, leaving me alone, haze thick and heavy, pressing on my chest. I spun, flashlight shaking, beams slicing the haze. Nothing, just the cart, the sign, the mall's silhouette. Come on, you coward! I shouted, spit flying. The silence answered, mocking me worse than the cackle. My legs trembled, crowbar heavy in my hand. I'd run out of steam, running on empty, like some shitty metaphor. I leaned against the cart, catching my breath. You're not gonna break me. I growled, but the words felt hollow. The haze pulsed, and I swore I heard my own breath echo back, twisted, like he was mimicking me now. I stood there, crowbar dripping mist, chest heaving like I'd run a marathon through hell. The lot was dead, too quiet, too still, the kind of silence that screams trouble. You're done, you prick? I growled, voice rough as sandpaper. The haze parted slow, reluctant. The road stretched ahead, clear, no damn 13 in sight. I walked, cautious, boots crunching gravel, waiting for that cackle to sneak up and gut me. Nothing, just the faint hum of traffic, a lifeline in the distance. Then he stepped out, smack in the road's center, arms flung wide like some twisted messiah. That hat flopped low, stripes sagging in the damp air, smudge pulsing where a face should have been. I froze, crowbar up, let's end this asshole, and charged, full tilt, swinging like I meant to split the world. I hit something soft, wet, like a sack of rotting meat. He crumpled, suit collapsing in a heap, and the mist rushed in, swallowing him whole. I laughed, loud and ragged. Take that, you fucking freak! The stench crept back. Grease paint, sour and thick, clawing up my nose. I kept walking, road solid under me, mall fading into the gray behind. My apartment was close, 2 miles, maybe less. I could taste the beer, feel the couch, see the TV flickering. I'd fucking won, damn it. I'd beaten the bastard. My boots thudded, steady now, flashlight swinging loose in my hand. The haze thinned more, stars poking through like pinpricks of hope. But the smell wouldn't quit. It clung, heavy, like a warning I was too stubborn to hear. I stopped, glancing back. The road was empty, just a stretch of black fading into the night. You're gone? I muttered, spitting into the dirt. The spit hit, and I swore it sizzled, like the ground was alive. I shook it off, crazy talk. Tim, just get home. The cackle didn't come, but the quiet felt worse, like it was holding its breath, waiting to pounce. I gripped the crowbar tighter, muttering, "Not today, you bastard," and kept moving. The mist lifted, stars cutting through the dark like shards of glass. My apartment block loomed up, 3 floors, cracked windows, the shithole I called home. I climbed the stairs, legs wobbling like jelly, crowbar still clenched in my sweaty fist. The hall was dark, air stale with old cigarette smoke. My door, number 12, glowed faintly under the flickering bulb. I jammed the key in, turned it, and stepped inside. Lights on, TV buzzing low, a beer sweating on the table. I sank into the couch, exhaling hard. Safe, you bastard. The tension drained, leaving me hollow, aching. I'd fucking made it. Screw them all, screw the shift, screw that smirking freak. I reached for the beer, hand shaking. ready to chug it and pass out. Then I saw it. Across the room on the recliner, me. Another me, sitting there, sipping that same damn beer, staring at the TV like nothing was wrong. I froze, crowbar slipping to the floor with a dull thud. The other me turned, slow as death, and smirked. No face, just a smudge, pulsing where eyes should have been. My stomach lurched. What the fuck? I whispered, voice barely a breath. The room tilted, walls bending, TV static roaring in my ears. The other me stood, slow, deliberate, stripes nowhere in sight but that smudge still there, undeniable. The door creaked open behind me. I hadn't touched it. That cackle rolled in, low and wet, gurgling like a clogged drain. I spun. Empty doorway, just the hall stretching dark and endless. Back to the recliner. He was closer, arms dangling, smirk splitting that smudge wide. "You're not me," I croaked, backing up, hitting the couch. The cackle swelled, bouncing off the walls, sinking into my bones. I grabbed the crowbar, swinging wild. He flickered, gone, then back, right in my face. The stench hit, grease paint, sour and thick, choking me. I stumbled to the door, legs like lead, and ran. Hallway stairs out into the night. The cackle followed, loud now everywhere, and I knew. I hadn't won shit. It wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I stopped in the street, chest heaving, staring at the block. The lights flickered, and that smudge watched from my window, smirking still. The album. I found an old family album in my locker last night. Not one of those fancy leather-bound things, just a cheap, faded stack of photos held together with a rubber band. I just finished a 12-hour shift, my hands still smelling like antiseptic and regret, when I shoved my scrubs into the locker and saw it sitting there, right on top of my spare sneakers. Weird, because I don't keep shit like that at work. I flipped it open, expecting baby pictures of me and my brother or some awkward Christmas shots. Instead, every photo had a stranger in it. He stood behind us, behind Mom, Dad, little me with my gap-toothed grin, my brother with his dumb bowl cut. A clown. Not some goofy circus reject, but a tall, bony figure with a smile stretched too wide, like his face was about to split open. Greasy white paint, cracked around the edges, and a red nose that looked more like a scab than a prop. In every shot, he was just there, staring. I laughed it off at first. Someone screwing with me, right? Probably Jake from radiology. That prick loves a prank. But then I got to the last page. It was blank, except for one word scratched in black ink. Soon. I rubbed my eyes, figuring it was exhaustion playing tricks. Night shifts'll do that, turn shadows into monsters. But when I glanced up at the mirror above the locker room sink, I froze. He was there, just for a second, standing behind me. That grin, those hollow eyes. I spun around, heart slamming against my ribs, but the room was empty. Just me, the hum of the fluorescent lights, and that damn album still in my hands. I stuffed it into my bag and got the hell out of there, telling myself I'd deal with it tomorrow. Thing is, I couldn't shake it. Driving home through the fog, I kept checking my rearview mirror, half expecting that painted face to pop up in the back seat. I didn't see him, but I felt him, like an itch you can't scratch, right between my shoulder blades. I'm Emily Keller, 32, a nurse who's seen enough death to stop flinching at it. I don't scare easy. So why the hell was my stomach twisting like I'd swallowed a live wire? When I got home, I tossed the album on the kitchen counter and poured myself a whiskey. Medicinal, you know. I didn't open it again. Didn't need to. That grin was already burned into my head, and soon kept echoing like a bad song stuck on repeat. I told myself it was nothing, just a creepy joke. But as I crawled into bed, the dark felt heavier than usual, and somewhere far off, I could have sworn I heard a low, raspy chuckle. Next night, I was back at the hospital, chugging coffee like it was my lifeline. The album was still in my bag. I hadn't touched it since last night, but I couldn't leave it at home either. Felt like abandoning it would make it worse, you know? The shift started quiet, just the usual beeps and groans of a small-town ER. I was checking vitals in room 4 when I heard it. A laugh. Not loud, not cartoonish, just a dry, wheezy little chuckle, like someone was gargling gravel. I yanked the curtain back, expecting a patient screwing with me, but room 4 was empty. Bed made, machines off. I stood there, stethoscope dangling from my neck, listening. It came again, fainter, from the corner where the shadows pooled. I flipped on every light in the place, nothing. Just me and that itch crawling up my spine again. I told myself it was the vents. Old buildings make noises, right? But then I passed the monitors in the hall and one flickered. Just for a split second, I saw him. Red nose, cracked paint, grinning like he just won the lottery. Then static. Gone. I didn't tell anyone. What was I gonna say? Hey guys, I'm hallucinating clowns now. Send help? I've seen nurses crack from stress before. Pills, breakdowns, the works. I wasn't about to be one of them, so I kept moving, charting patients, dodging the feeling that every empty room was watching me. Around 3 a.m., I ducked into the supply closet for bandages, and the lights buzzed overhead. That chuckle came back, rolling through the air like smoke. I dropped the damn box, spun around, nothing. But when I bent to pick it up, the door creaked shut behind me. Not locked, just closed, like someone nudged it. I bolted out of there, heart thudding so hard I thought I'd need a defibrillator myself. Back in the hall, everything was normal, too normal. Nurses chatting, a janitor mopping, the coffee machine gurgling. But I couldn't shake it. That laugh wasn't in my head. It was in the walls, the air, the fucking floor. I finished my shift on autopilot, eyes darting to every shadow. When I grabbed my bag to leave, I felt the album inside, heavier than it should have been. Driving home, the fog was thicker, swallowing the road. I kept the radio off, didn't want a chance hearing something I'd never forget. But here's the kicker. When I parked, I glanced at the hospital in my rear view. One window on the third floor was lit, even though we never used that wing. And there he was, just a silhouette, head tilted, watching me go. I blinked, and the light was out. Maybe I'm losing it. Maybe I need a vacation. Or maybe that bastard's real and he's just getting started. I needed a break after that shift, so I dragged myself to the break room around 4 a.m. The place smelled like burnt coffee and stale donuts, home sweet home. My coworker Lisa was there, scrolling her phone, looking like she'd rather be anywhere else. I plopped down across from her, the album still in my bag slung over the chair. You ever see anything weird around here? I asked, casual as I could manage. She barely looked up. Weird like what? Drunks puking in the hall. I hesitated, then pulled out the album and slid it across the table. Weird like this. She flipped it open, her face blank at first. Then her brow furrowed. What's with the clown? She said, pointing at a photo of me and my folks at some picnic. There he was, lurking behind us, that grin cutting through the faded colors. I shrugged, playing it cool. No idea. Found it in my locker. She stared at me, too long, like she was trying to figure out if I was nuts. Someone's got a sick sense of humor, she muttered, shoving it back. I nodded, but my eyes drifted to the window behind her. The glass was smudged, reflecting the room, and there he was, standing right behind me, close enough to smell the grease paint. I whipped around, chair scraping the floor, but it was just us. Lisa raised an eyebrow. You okay, Em? I forced a laugh. Yeah, just jumpy. Too much coffee. She didn't buy it, but she didn't push either. I grabbed a napkin to scribble some notes. Anything to keep my hands busy. When I looked down, the pen was still in my grip, but the napkin had writing on it. Not mine. He loves your eyes. Neat little letters like a kid wrote it. I crumpled it fast, heart racing, and tossed it in the trash. Lisa didn't notice, thank God. I made some excuse about needing air and bolted to the bathroom, splashing water on my face. The mirror was fine. No clowns, just me. Bags under my eyes deeper than the Grand Canyon. But when I got back, Lisa was gone. Her phone was still there, screen dark, and the album was open to that blank page again. Soon stared up at me, the ink looking wetter than before. I grabbed my stuff and hauled ass out of there, the break room silence chasing me down the hall. That laugh was back too soft, like it was humming through the walls. I'm not crazy. I'm not. But something's wrong here, and it's not just in my head. I couldn't sleep after that shift. Kept seeing that napkin. He loves your eyes. Every time I closed mine. Around noon, I gave up and called my brother, Matt. He's a mechanic, lives 2 towns over. and he's the only family I've got left worth a damn. I needed something normal, something to ground me. Hey, you remember Mom keeping old photo albums? I asked, pacing my kitchen, the albums sitting on the counter like a loaded gun. Nah, she wasn't the sentimental type, he said, his voice crackling through the line. Why? I told him about it, finding it in my locker, the clown in every shot. He laughed, that big brother laugh that used to piss me off as a kid. What, you got a stalker with a makeup fetish? Sounds like a you problem, Em. I forced a chuckle, but then I heard it. My own voice, echoing back through the phone, warped into that raspy, wheezing laugh. I yanked the phone away, staring at it. Matt was still talking. You there? Hello? Yeah. Just dropped something. I lied, my mouth dry. Hey, you remember anything weird from when we were kids? Like clowns or circuses? He went quiet for a second. There was that one time. You were, what, 6? Some rinky-dink carnival came through. You wouldn't shut up about the clown who gave you candy or some shit. Mom was pissed. Said you wandered off. I didn't remember that. Not a damn thing. Thanks, Matt, I muttered, hanging up before that laugh could creep back. I sat there, staring at the album. My hands itched to open it, but I didn't. Instead, I grabbed my keys and drove to the hospital early. The fog was thick again, curling around the car like it was alive. I kept the windows up, the heat on, anything to feel less exposed. When I got to the locker room, I checked my bag. The album was still there, heavier than ever. I flipped to a photo of me at 7, pigtails and a missing tooth. There he was, grinning behind me, his hand hovering over my shoulder like he was about to grab it. That's when it hit me. I didn't feel alone. Not in the car, not now. The air in the locker room felt thick, like it was pressing against me. I slammed the album shut and shoved it back in my bag, telling myself I'd figure this out later. But as I walked to the nurse's station, I heard it again, that chuckle, bouncing off the tiles like a bad echo. Whatever this was, it wasn't staying in the pictures anymore. It was following me, and I had no clue how to make it stop. That night, the hospital felt like a damn tomb. I was on autopilot, checking IVs, handing out pills, avoiding eye contact with anything that didn't breathe. But the laugh was everywhere now. It started soft, trickling out of the ventilation grate above the nurse's station. I ignored it at first. Old pipes, right? Happens all the time. But then it got louder, raspier, like someone was choking on their own glee right behind me. I spun around, nothing there, just charts and a flickering light down the hall. I grabbed a screwdriver from the janitor's cart. Don't ask why, I just needed to do something. Climbed on a chair and pried the vent cover off, half expecting a rat or a busted fan. Nothing but dust and dark. The laugh stopped for a second, and I thought maybe I'd won. Then it hit me full force, blasting out of the hole like a goddamn siren. I dropped the screwdriver, nearly fell off the chair, and yanked the cover back on. Didn't help. The sound kept coming, muffled now, seeping through the walls like damp rot. I stormed down to the break room, hands shaking, and kicked the vending machine just to feel something solid. Lisa was there again, sipping tea, looking at me like I'd lost it. Rough night, she asked, too calm. You hear that? I snapped, pointing at the ceiling. She tilted her head. Hear what? The laugh was still there, buzzing in my ears, but she just stared. You're freaking me out, she said, and I wanted to scream. Instead, I grabbed my bag and headed for the supply closet, needing space. Inside, I locked the door and sank to the floor, the album spilling out of my bag. I didn't touch it, just glared at it like it was alive. The laugh followed me in there, quieter now, like it was toying with me. I stood up, grabbed a broom, and smashed the overhead light. Glass rained down, and for a blissful second, it was silent. Then I looked at the mess. The shards on the floor were not random. They'd landed in a perfect little smile, 2 bigger pieces for eyes. I laughed, a brittle, ugly sound, because what else was I supposed to do? I cleaned it up, told myself I was fine, went back to work like nothing happened. But when I passed the ER doors later, the glass reflected me. And him, standing behind me, head tilted, that grin wider than ever. I didn't turn around this time, just kept walking, pulse hammering. He wasn't in the album anymore. He was here, and I was running out of places to hide. I don't dream much, too tired most nights. But after that shift, I crashed hard, and there it was, a memory I didn't know I had. A circus tent, sagging and patched, the air thick with popcorn and sweat. I was 6, clutching a sticky handful of cotton candy, staring up at a clown. Not the goofy kind. This one was tall, gaunt, his paint chipped like old plaster. He handed me a red nose, the kind you squeeze, and winked. "Keep it safe," he said, voice like sandpaper. I grinned, thinking he was my new best friend. Then the tent went dark, and I woke up gasping, his whisper in my ear, "Emily." I sat up, sheets soaked, the room too quiet. That red nose, I hadn't thought about it in years. Did I still have it? I tore through my closet, tossing old scrubs and shoes aside until I found it. A beat-up shoebox from when I moved here. Inside, buried under birthday cards and a cracked watch, was the nose. Dull red, scratched, but real. My hands shook as I held it, that chuckle humming in the back of my skull. I didn't sleep after that, just sat on my couch, staring at the thing, trying to piece it together. The album was on the coffee table, unopened, but I could feel it watching me. Around dawn, I dozed off again, and he was back. This time, he held a photo, me and my folks, the picnic one from the album. "You took me with you," he said, grin splitting wider. "And I've been waiting." I jolted awake, the nose still in my lap, warm like it had been sitting in the sun. I drove to work in a daze, the fog outside matching the one in my head. That circus, Matt mentioned it, but I hadn't connected the dots. What the hell happened back then? I parked and grabbed the album, flipping to that picnic shot. There he was, same as always, but now I noticed something. His hand wasn't just hovering. It was on my shoulder, fingers curled like he was claiming me. I slammed it shut, my breath hitching. He wasn't some random ghost. He was mine. I couldn't stay still after that dream. Work was calling, so I dragged myself back to the hospital, the red nose tucked in my pocket like a grenade. The shift started normal, busy, loud, the kind of chaos that usually drowns out my head. But around midnight, the halls went quiet. Too quiet. I was restocking a cart in the east wing when I heard it. Not the laugh this time, but footsteps. Slow, deliberate, like someone dragging their feet. I peeked around the corner, and there he was. Not a shadow, not a reflection, him. Standing at the end of the corridor, head cocked, that grin glowing under the flickering lights. His costume was ragged, stained, like he'd crawled out of a ditch. I didn't think, I just ran. Down the hall, past empty rooms, the slap of my sneakers echoing too loud. The footsteps followed, steady, never speeding up, but never falling behind either. I ducked into a stairwell, chest heaving, and risked a look back. He was closer, arms limp, eyes black pits under the paint. I bolted down the stairs, 2 at a time, and burst into the basement level. Storage, mostly, dark and damp. The air stank of mildew, but I didn't care. I crouched behind a stack of boxes, holding my breath, listening. Nothing. No steps, no laugh. Just the drip of a leaky pipe. I thought maybe I'd lost him, that my mind was finally cracking open like an egg. Then I saw it, on the floor, half hidden under a shelf. A torn piece of paper, yellowed and curled. A circus poster. The Grinner's Grand Finale, it read, with a sketch of that bastard's face. Same grin, same nose. My stomach dropped. I shoved it in my pocket with the nose and crept back upstairs, every shadow twitching in the corner of my eye. The hospital was alive again. Nurses calling out, a patient moaning somewhere. But it felt wrong, like I'd stepped into a play where everyone knew their lines except me. I finished my shift in a blur, avoiding mirrors, avoiding Lisa's questions. When I clocked out, I saw him again, outside through the ER doors, standing in the fog. Not moving, just watching. I ran to my car, peeling out of the lot like a bat out of hell. Driving home, I kept checking the rear view. Nothing there, but the nose in my pocket felt heavier, warmer. He wasn't gone. He was waiting, and I was starting to think running wouldn't cut it anymore. I didn't go straight home. Couldn't. Instead, I stopped at the library, the shitty little one that's open late for no reason. I needed answers, and that poster was burning a hole in my pocket. The place was dead. Just me and a bored clerk who didn't look up from his phone. I dug through the microfiche, hands shaking, until I found it. A local paper from 26 years ago. Circus fire claims one. Performer missing. The grinner, real name Harold Voss, died in a tent blaze the night that carnival rolled through. Or didn't die, depending on who you asked. Witnesses said he ran back in, screaming about finishing the show. No body, just ashes, and a melted red nose they found later. My breath caught. I'd been there, 6 years old, sticky fingers, watching him juggle fire until the flames got too close. I remembered now, sneaking backstage after, snagging that nose from his table because I thought it was cool. Mom yanked me out, yelling, and then the sirens started. I sat back, the room spinning. I'd taken it, his nose, his thing, whatever tied him to that night. And now he was tied to me. I drove home, the album and the nose on the passenger seat like passengers of their own. When I got inside, I rummaged through my bag. Old keys, gum wrappers, and there it was. That red nose, scratched and dull, staring up at me. Same one from the article, same one from my dream. I threw it across the room, but it didn't help. The laugh started up, low and steady, rolling out of the walls like it owned the place. I grabbed the album, flipping through it again. Every photo, every grin, he wasn't just there. He was looking at me like he'd been waiting all this time. I'd stolen more than a prop that night. I'd stolen him, and now he wanted something back. Sleep hit me like a truck that night, and he was waiting. No circus this time, just a black void, me standing in it and him across from me. Up close, he was worse. Skin sagging under the paint, eyes sunken like they'd been scooped out and put back wrong. He didn't laugh, just grinned, teeth yellow and jagged. "You've kept me waiting, Emily," he said, voice scraping like a rusty blade. "But I'm patient. I've got time. What the hell do you want?" I asked, my voice shaking more than I liked. He stepped closer, and I smelled it. Smoke, grease, something sour. "You took me," he said. "Now I take you. Or," he paused, tilting his head, "you give it back. All of it." I frowned. "The nose? I'll burn the damn thing." He cut me off with a wheeze, that laugh bubbling up. "Not just that. Your spark, your fight. Give it up, and I'm gone." I stared at him, heart pounding. Give up my fight? What did that even mean? My life, my soul, my sanity. "And if I don't?" I asked. He leaned in, grin splitting wider. "Then you're mine anyway. You already are." I woke up choking on my own breath, the room dark and heavy. The nose was back on my nightstand. Didn't I throw it? The album sat next to it, open to that blank page. Soon was gone. Now it just said now. I stumbled to the bathroom, splashing water on my face, but the mirror showed more than me. My eyes, they were wrong. Too wide, too bright, like his. I blinked hard, and they were normal again, but the damage was done. He was in me, clawing his way up. I could burn the nose, the album, everything. But would that stop him or just piss him off? I didn't know anymore. All I knew was I wasn't sleeping again tonight. I couldn't keep that bastard in my house anymore. After that dream, I grabbed the album, the nose, and a lighter, and drove to the edge of town where the old carnival lot used to be. It's just a field now, overgrown with weeds, but the fog made it feel alive, like the past was still breathing there. I piled it all on the ground, the photos, the nose, every damn thing, and lit it up. The flames caught fast, licking at the pages, and I watched that grin burn, curling into ash. For a second, I felt good, free. Then the laugh came. Not from me, not from the wind, from the fire itself. Low and raspy, weaving through the crackle like it was singing along. I stumbled back, the heat stinging my face, but I couldn't look away. The smoke twisted, and I swear I saw his face in it. Those hollow eyes, that split-wide mouth, before it drifted up and dissolved. "You're done," I muttered, half to myself, half to him. "Stay gone." The fire died down, leaving nothing but a charred smear on the dirt. I drove back home, hands steady for the first time in days. Next shift felt like a new start. I walked into the hospital, clocked in, even smiled at Lisa when she handed me a coffee. "You look better," she said, and I nodded. "Yeah. Burned some old baggage." She smirked, and I got to work, charts, vitals, the usual grind. The halls were loud again, alive with beeps and voices. and that itch between my shoulders was gone. I'd beaten him. Whatever he was, ghost, guilt, some twisted piece of my head, I'd won. Around 3 a.m., I hit the bathroom to wash up. The mirror was fogged from someone's shower, and I wiped it clean, ready to see my tired but triumphant face. Except it wasn't just me. My reflection grinned back. Too wide, too sharp, teeth gleaming like they didn't belong in my mouth. I froze, hands gripping the sink, watching my own eyes stretch, pupils shrinking to pinpricks. I didn't move, but the reflection did. Tilted its head, winked, slow and deliberate. Then it laughed. My voice, my throat, but his sound, wheezy, cruel, spilling out of me like I was a puppet. I clapped a hand over my mouth, stumbling back, and it stopped. The mirror showed me again. Just me, pale and shaking. No grin, no nothing. I stood there, breath ragged, telling myself it was a trick. Stress, exhaustion, whatever. I wasn't his. I'd burned him out. But when I turned to leave, I heard it. One last chuckle, soft as a whisper, right behind my ear. Not from the room, not from the walls, from me. I finished my shift without looking at anything reflective. Drove home with the radio off, windows down, the cold air slapping me awake. When I got inside, I locked the door, sank onto the couch, and stared at nothing. I didn't feel him anymore. Not in the shadows, not in the silence. But I felt me, and that was worse. I laughed then, just a little, a dry, broken sound. It didn't echo, didn't twist, but it didn't feel like mine either. So here I am, waiting for my next shift, wondering if I'm still Emily Keller, or if something else is wearing my skin. The fire took the album, the nose, his face, but maybe it didn't take him. Maybe it just made room. I'll keep going, keep working, keep living. But every time I smile, every time I laugh, I'll wonder, is it me? Or is it him, grinning through me, waiting for the next show to start?